Well, hey everybody, welcome to Nurses Outside the Box. This is Annemie Tolman, and I'm so glad to have another episode of a nurse who's totally outside the box too. We're talking today with Karen Mercero, and Karen, I would love for you to go a little bit into the story about what is your nursing career has been, and how did you start RN per patient advocacy? Right? I mean, that's what really you are all about, is really helping nurses and patient advocacy. So I would love to hear more first about your story. Where did you start and what has been your career in nursing? And how then did
I, well, I started a long time ago. I graduated in '68, started my career at Georgetown, and have done many different things. I'm fairly easily bored, and once I master an area, I like to move to another one. So my career has been clinically mostly in all the different ICUs, both baby and adult. And I've done a lot of teaching, both of paramedics as well as new nurses. I have been involved in administration in terms of rewriting the entire way nursing is practiced in a 14 hospital chain. Got involved in that just because I kept asking questions. And so I've always been looking for something new. By the time I had 34 years under my belt and having done what I had done, I was working PDICU and I quit because I felt that the staffing levels were very dangerous and I could lose my license. And so I decided to read where all the problems are in the healthcare system. Everybody knew things were really bad, but I wanted actual proof. So by the time I read every single national study that I could lay my hands on, it was very obvious to me that the system was way more broken than I knew. And I thought, you know what? People need somebody like me. People need somebody who knows the language, can work with physicians and institutions, can teach them what's going on, teach them how to advocate for themselves while I'm advocating for them, guide them through the system. And nobody was doing it. So that is that's an open door for Karen. So I went out in the community and I started speaking at small groups and then larger groups, and people just started coming from all over the US.
what were you speaking about in those initial meetings?
Well, in the very beginning, I knew that advocacy, education, and guidance were the three guiding principles. Okay. However, how to do that, I wasn't sure. I didn't know. So each patient, I started by practicing all of the skills that I had acquired, and every patient taught me something new. So I practiced solo for 7 years, both locally and nationally. And because you can't sit in a room and make this stuff up. It has to be based in actual practice. So at the end of 7 years, the RN patient advocacy process is rock solid. It's a matrix model. You can throw anything at it, it works. You can use a little of it, you can use all of it. And all of the tools that evolved in there.
Wow.
Anyway, so, and you know, the tools, one of them is a direct address to the 12 million misdiagnoses in the country. It could potentially save millions of lives. Anyway, it took nurses, you know, it took nurses to do this. Professional nurses have an incredible scope of ability. Once you step out and start asking questions. So in 2009, 7 years in, I taught the first learning intensive. And following that, it was a gift. I was speaking to the dean of the College of Nursing down here at the University of Arizona. And she said, would you please come in here and tell us what you're doing? Okay. So I gave them 2.5 hours of chapter and verse, whole room full of RN PhD academics and me. And at the end of that time, the dean looks at me and said, Karen, I think this is the beginning of a new practice model. I said, that's exactly what it is.
Wow.
And she said, would you partner with us?
Nah.
Let me think. Anyway, so that began 10 years of intense mentoring in curriculum development and program development. I met regularly with the dean. I met weekly with a mentor, faculty from the college. It was an actual gift. It was an amazing gift.
Wow.
And so here we are. We're getting ready to start class 14. And it has expanded from the first one, which was 4 days long. The online is now 7 months long, and then there's a 7-day residential, at the end of which every RN who has qualified to enroll will have gone through an entire patient, will have done an entire client, will have learned all of the sciences. What's important to me is that we go beyond conventional medicine. It's important to understand that we're in the midst of an epidemic of chronic illness. We're not dying from acute, we're dying from chronic. And pills might supply part of the answer, but they're sure not doing a great job on making people better. Symptom less, yes. Better, no. And so I did a lot of research and educated myself in functional medicine. I put myself through Andrew Weil's program at the university on integrative medicine. I started learning when it was available all about the human microbiome. And then the cherry on top is called systems biology, which is the study from the gene level out of how everything in our bodies is interconnected. You can't just deal with symptoms in one system and ignore all of the complementary things that are going on in every other system in your body. So every RNPA comes out of the learning intensive with a beginning knowledge base in all paradigms so that you can select what might be most helpful for your patients.
Nice. So what kind of nurses do you get into your programs now, into the RN patient advocacy program?
Oh, amazing nurses. Oh, just amazing. They just find us, you know. It's not the number of degrees, I will tell you that. Many will come to the program and say, I don't have a master's, or I don't even have a baccalaureate, and can I possibly do this? It doesn't matter. By the time you've been practicing for 10, 15 years, what matters is your level of experience and your ability to solve problems, greatly improve communication and education skills. Those are the kinds of things we're looking for. It's not the number of degrees. So they come from a number of different backgrounds, from neonate, end of life, onc, cardiovascular, meds, typical med surg, neuro. And it's really, really thrilling for me to work with peers of such excellence, truly.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm curious, where do the nurses that come out of your program, where do they go? I mean, I'm sure they're very innovative nurses at that point, right? Do they go
yeah.
to different places as well? Or is there a certain area that you see more of a concentration? Or they go
the Northeast is a little behind.
Oh, okay.
It is slower to adapt to the newer paradigms. We see the West Coast is dense with RN patient advocates. Illinois, the largest group practice, multidisciplinary practice is in Chicago. There are quite a few RNPAs in Florida, group practices down there as well. There are several group practices in the country. So I'd have to say Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, New York, Chicago, and Illinois, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and the whole West Coast.
So I'm curious, so that practices, you say. So how do they practice? How do they practice? Tell me an example of how that works.
Okay, well, first of all, we need to give them, and we do in the intensive, basic business skills, communication skills, marketing, financial, insurance, legal, because you need to start a small practice. Now, what we have also done is develop something called a business in a box. So if you're really scared and you don't want to do it yourself, RN patient advocates who are successful have developed business in a box. They'll set up your whole business for you and teach you how to do it. But that's the business side. The patient side is where the action is. This is so exciting. And all of the things that I've done in my career, this is absolutely the most creative, intense, satisfying role that I've ever had. Every single patient is different, and you meet them where they are. First thing, you have to set up a therapeutic relationship, without which you have no trust and you're not going to educate them about anything. And so you meet them where they are. You go into their homes, or if they're in the hospital, you go into the hospital. You meet them where they are, and you begin the RN patient advocacy process. Education is the central tenet of this entire program. And when I say education, I'm talking about patient and family, certainly, communities. Health literacy in the United States is 12%, which is, and that doesn't mean they know what a pancreas is, truly. They can read a medicine bottle direction and recognize a word or two. So one of the things as RN patient advocates, we go out in our communities and we teach. How do you advocate for yourself? Give them tools to help them protect themselves and do well in the healthcare system. Nobody's really doing that nationally, so we're out there doing it. So, and it's also education of physicians and institutions about this new role, and also about advanced paradigms. Now, everybody who makes it into this program knows very well how to work with physicians. We've been doing it all our lives. Now, there's a way to do that, as you well know. And so you don't go in with big boots on. You go in with articles highlighted and underlined, and you say something like, I was reading this and it looked really interesting, and I thought I really would like to know what you think about this. Open the door, and then they listen, you know, and you can effect change, sometimes incremental, sometimes more. So there are many, many aspects to working with clients, entirely dictated by the patient and their family culture, the family dynamics. Everybody's different, and you meet them where they are. It's exciting.
It does sound like a really exciting program. If there are any nurses, because I promise to keep this short, if there's any nurses who are saying like, oh my goodness, this is something that I be interested in looking at, right? They go to the website. What is the best thing for them to kind of approach this?
Well, if they're interested in getting into this class, they better call me now. And I don't know whether or not we publish a number here or no.
I think we're going to just put on the website or a number. We can actually add it to the comments below. But
okay.
The RN patient advocates, right? .com.
Yes, yes. And they can apply. We will call them immediately. If not for this class, go to rnpatientadvocates.com. Take a look at the course content and everything that we cover. At this point, we are the only program in the country that you are required to be an active RN with an active license. All of the other programs which have developed since we started here, you don't have to be a nurse. So that's a whole nother ball of wax. Our entire expertise is clinical. We don't do billing, we don't do insurance. You can't be good at everything. We're really good at clinical.
Awesome, beautiful, I love it. I love that you outsource that too. What do you think in terms of your work that you've spent years in doing, right? How does that contribute to the really idea of nurses outside the box, nurses who do something that's outside of what we commonly think of nurses? I think it speaks to it logically, but I would love to hear your take, like maybe in the last couple of minutes that we have, is what do you think your work has contributed to nursing and nursing in general and kind of the non-standard nursing that we think about?
Well, we are living in the midst of a renaissance in professional nursing, which is absolutely marvelous because historically, professional nursing has always stepped up to meet national need, from public health nursing to the development of nurse practitioners, case managers, and now RN patient advocates. For those nurses who are really looking to re-energize their career, you have to ask yourself, why did I go into nursing? Yeah, and is that need being met? Can I actually advocate in the clinical setting? How successful is that? And would I like to be enthused? Would I like to find joy in my work again? And when you get to do what you know is right for your patients, that's joy.
Beautiful. We'll leave it at that. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing, guys. Go to RN Patient Advocates. I think you have a phenomenal program. So thanks so much for being here. And
thank you.
For all the work that you've done for professional nursing, because I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll talk later.